Long before Boston became a symbol of American independence, the land now encompassing the city was home to the Massachusetts people. These indigenous communities thrived in the area for thousands of years, relying on its abundant natural resources. The Massachusetts people lived in semi-permanent villages along the rivers and shores, using the region's waterways for fishing, transportation, and trade. Seasonal migration shaped their lives as they moved between summer planting grounds and winter hunting camps. Central to their culture were the canoes they crafted from large trees, enabling them to navigate the many rivers and the coastline of what is now Boston Harbor. The region's rich biodiversity provided the Massachusetts with a variety of food sources, including fish, shellfish, game, and gathered plants. Their connection to the land was not merely practical, but deeply spiritual, with rituals and ceremonies woven into their daily lives to honor the earth and its gifts. When European explorers and settlers arrived in the 17th century, they encountered a thriving indigenous culture. The first recorded contact occurred in the early 1600s, with explorers such as Samuel de Champlain documenting the vibrant communities they met along the coast. However, these encounters also marked the beginning of profound upheaval. The introduction of diseases like smallpox devastated the Massachusetts population, wiping out entire villages and reducing their numbers by as much as 90% within a few decades. In 1620, the arrival of the Pilgrims in Plymouth set the stage for more sustained European colonization. By 1630, John Winthrop and his Puritan followers established the Massachusetts Bay Colony, choosing Shawmut Peninsula as the site of their new settlement. The Puritans renamed the area Boston, honoring the English town from which many of them had emigrated. Shawmut's location, with its natural harbor and access to fresh water, made it an ideal site for the colony's capital. Winthrop's vision of a city upon a hill reflected the Puritans' ambition to create a model society grounded in Christian principles. They quickly built a thriving community, establishing churches, schools, and governance structures that reflected their deeply religious values. Boston Latin School, founded in 1635, became the first public school in the colonies, while Harvard College, established in 1636, ensured the education of future leaders. However, the Puritans' expansion came at a great cost to the indigenous peoples. Land disputes, combined with the spread of disease and the imposition of colonial laws, eroded the Massachusetts way of life. Despite this, the legacy of the Massachusetts people endures, reflected in the names of places and their contributions to the region's history. By the mid-17th century, Boston had established itself as a thriving colonial hub. Its location on the Atlantic coast, coupled with its excellent harbor, positioned it as a key center for trade and commerce. The city became a vital link in the transatlantic triangular trade, exporting goods such as fish, timber, and rum while importing manufactured goods and enslaved Africans. The wealth generated by trade fueled the growth of a powerful merchant class, whose grand homes and cultural influence shaped Boston's social fabric. The city's narrow, winding streets buzzed with activity as merchants, artisans, and laborers went about their work. Meeting houses and churches became focal points for community gatherings, reflecting the Puritans' emphasis on communal life and governance. Despite its prosperity, Boston's role in the triangular trade revealed deep contradictions. While the city profited from the global economy, its involvement in slavery and the exploitation of indigenous and African peoples cast a shadow over its success. Over time, Boston would become a center of abolitionist activity, but this evolution was fraught with tension and complexity. As the 18th century progressed, tensions between the American colonies and British rule began to rise. Boston's prominence made it a focal point of colonial resistance. The imposition of taxes and trade restrictions by the British government, such as the Stamp Act 1765 and the Townshend Act 1767, angered merchants and citizens alike. The rallying cry of taxation without representation resonated deeply in Boston, where groups like the Sons of Liberty emerged to challenge British authority. The Boston Massacre of 1770 marked a turning point in the city's revolutionary fervor. The killing of 5 colonists by British soldiers fueled outrage and galvanized support for the Patriot cause. Events such as the Boston Tea Party of 1773 further demonstrated the colonists' determination to resist British control. Disguised as Mohawk warriors, protesters boarded British ships and dumped chests of tea into Boston Harbor, a bold act of defiance that reverberated across the colonies. As Boston became a hotbed of revolutionary activity, its residents faced increasing hardships. British troops occupied the city, and the harbor was closed as punishment for the Tea Party. These measures only strengthened the resolve of Bostonians, who continued to resist through boycotts, protests, and the dissemination of revolutionary ideas. The American Revolution erupted in 1775, with Boston at its epicenter. The battles of Lexington and Concord, fought just outside the city, marked the first military engagements of the war. Paul Revere's famous Midnight Ride warned the countryside of the British advance, cementing his place in American folklore as a symbol of vigilance and resistance. Boston played a pivotal role during the early phases of the Revolutionary War. The Siege of Boston, lasting from April 1775 to March 1776, was a defining campaign. British forces fortified the city, but they faced relentless pressure from the Continental Army, led by General George Washington. One of Washington's most strategic moves came when Henry Knox transported artillery from Fort Ticonderoga to Boston in the dead of winter. These cannons were placed on Dorchester Heights, forcing the British to evacuate Boston in March 1776, marking a crucial victory for the revolutionaries. Beyond the battlefield, Boston was a hub of revolutionary thought. Figures like John Adams, Samuel Adams, and James Otis used their legal and political expertise to rally support for independence. John Adams' role in drafting the Declaration of Independence underscored Boston's intellectual contribution to the revolutionary cause. Meanwhile, Abigail Adams' correspondence highlighted the broader societal implications of the Revolution, including her call to remember the ladies in the new nation's laws. The Revolution also brought significant social changes to Boston. The war disrupted traditional trade routes, forcing the city to adapt economically. Women took on new roles in managing households and businesses while men fought in the war. The abolitionist sentiment, already present in Boston, grew stronger as the ideals of liberty and equality clashed with the reality of slavery. In addition to these local impacts, Boston's influence extended to shaping national strategies and ideals. Its leaders frequently corresponded with other colonies to coordinate revolutionary efforts, solidifying the city's status as a nexus of American resistance. Boston emerged from the Revolution with a renewed sense of identity and pride. The city's pivotal role in the fight for independence cemented its reputation as the cradle of liberty, a legacy that continues to define its character today. In the decades following the American Revolution, Boston began to rebuild and redefine itself. The city transitioned from a colonial port to an industrial and cultural powerhouse, adapting to the challenges and opportunities of a newly independent nation. Boston's maritime economy initially struggled to compete with larger ports like New York, but the city found new vitality during the Industrial Revolution. By the early 19th century, Boston had become a center for manufacturing, with textile mills, ironworks, and other industries driving economic growth. The construction of the Boston and Lowell Railroad in 1835 connected the city to inland markets, further boosting its industrial base. The city also became a beacon for immigrants, particularly during the mid-19th century. The Irish potato famine of the 1840s brought waves of Irish immigrants to Boston, where they settled in neighborhoods like South Boston and Charlestown. These immigrants faced discrimination and harsh working conditions, but their resilience and contributions transformed the city. Irish laborers played a key role in building Boston's infrastructure, while Irish politicians, such as John F. Honey Fitzgerald, began to reshape the city's political landscape. Boston's intellectual and cultural life flourished during this period. The city became a hub for transcendentalist thinkers, including Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, who challenged conventional ideas about society, nature, and individuality. Abolitionists like William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass used Boston as a platform to advocate for the end of slavery, with fiery speeches and publications that galvanized the nation. The Civil War brought new challenges and opportunities to Boston. The city supplied troops, weapons, and financial support to the Union cause, while its abolitionist leaders celebrated the war's eventual success in ending slavery. The post-war period saw Boston continue to grow and innovate, with institutions like the Boston Public Library established in 1850 to symbolizing its commitment to education and progress. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen Boston evolve into a global leader in education, healthcare, and technology. The city's universities, including Harvard, MIT, and Boston University, have become engines of innovation, driving advancements in fields ranging from artificial intelligence to biotechnology. These institutions attract students, researchers, and entrepreneurs from around the world, cementing Boston's reputation as an intellectual capital. The Longwood medical area emerged as a global center for healthcare, with hospitals such as Massachusetts General and Boston Children's leading the way in medical research and patient care. The city's biotech industry, anchored by Kendall Square in nearby Cambridge, has been at the forefront of groundbreaking developments in genetics, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare technology. Infrastructure projects, such as the Big Dig, transformed Boston's urban landscape, reconnecting neighborhoods and creating green spaces like the Rose Kennedy Greenway. These developments revitalized the city's downtown area and improved quality of life for residents and visitors alike. The Seaport District, once an industrial area, has been reimagined as a hub for technology, art, and culture. New office spaces, galleries, and waterfront parks reflect Boston's forward-looking spirit while preserving its historical character. Cultural landmarks such as the Boston Symphony Orchestra and the Museum of Fine Arts continue to thrive, showcasing the city's rich artistic heritage. Boston's sports teams, including the Red Sox, Celtics, and Patriots, have also played a significant role in shaping the city's identity, offering a sense of pride and community. From the Freedom Trail to its leading-edge industries, Boston balances its historical significance with modern advancements, embodying the dynamism of an evolving metropolis.